He's crazy. I'm just going to premise that this man is crazy, absolutely insane. If you like his character, you're weird. I'm sorry. Isn't this terrible? I'm doing a vintage film video and I can't remember any of these actresses' names. How terrible. Hello everyone, welcome back to Poised with Purpose Co. and welcome to a new video in my playlist, All Things Vintage. I thought I would go ahead and share some more vintage film inspiration. So some of these films are vintage. Actually, most of them would be considered vintage in our present day and age, but some of them are musicals, some of them are vintage inspired films, etc. So if you enjoy this kind of content, then I encourage you to subscribe. On my channel, I talk about all things vintage, feminine, elegant. I talk about style, etiquette, basic manners, literacy, etc. And I would like to talk a little bit about why I like to film these kinds of videos. If you're interested in knowing more about my background, go ahead and keep watching. But if you're just interested in the films, I will put a timestamp on the screen somewhere, so go ahead to that timestamp to learn about the films. If you are not familiar with my channel and with myself, my name is Andrea and I have a BFA in film. It used to be called Cinematic Arts when I was in school, and now it's called Film and Video. And so I'm very passionate about sharing vintage inspired films, old Hollywood films, things that have a narrative to them and not just experimental, for several reasons. But being in school, being in film classes, a lot of the times we were not learning about the kinds of films I was interested in. We learned a lot more about the experimental films. We learned a lot about the kind of B-movie films and the ones that are very gory. We watched a lot of foreign films, and don't get me wrong, they were very necessary to watch for our program. They taught us a lot, but our program did not focus on narrative storytelling as much. We learned storyboarding and we learned how to tell a story, but it wasn't the same. It wasn't what I was interested in. I think that if I'd gone or attended a different institution that is much older and maybe in a different state that did focus on the old Hollywood parts of film, then I would have gotten that experience to learn more about certain film directors and producers such as Stanley Donen, and not just Hitchcock or some of the other foreign filmmakers. But with that being said, I'm very passionate about old Hollywood films, the one that give you kind of that warm, cozy feeling when you watch them. I grew up in theater and ensemble. I grew up doing television and being in the entertainment industry. So I always gravitated towards these kinds of films. So if you did not watch my first episode where I was sharing my favorite vintage romance films, I will link it above and I will link it in the description box below. But just like I did last time, I have a bowl here with the names of the films that I'm going to be picking out. I might remove these gloves in case it's not as easy to read them off with the gloves here, but let's go ahead and get started. That Thing You Do. Okay, this is one of those ones, got a hair, is one of those ones that is vintage inspired. So it's from 1996 and you'll see Tom Hanks in there. You'll see, oh gosh, what's her name? Steven Tyler's daughter. I forgot her name. And I think Tom Hanks either wrote it and produced it direct. He did a lot with that film, but I love That Thing You Do for several reasons. It is a musical film. It's based in the 1960s and it follows a band called The Wonders, and they want to become a band. They want to be as big as the Beatles. They are making these hits, and so their song That Thing You Do is what makes them a hit. And so I really love the Chantrellines in the film. So they are the black singing group that kind of is reminiscent of the Supremes, and I love that song, When You Hold My Hand, You Hold My Heart. I will go ahead and link the YouTube short that I did of that. They're just so darling and I really love that. So That Thing You Do, if you like that, if you like musicals, if you love Tom Hanks, if you love things that are based around a band trying to make it, and of course there's romance in it as well, then I encourage you to watch That Thing You Do. Some of my favorite songs, like I said, I love Hold My Hand, Hold My Heart, but I also love the name of the movie, That Thing You Do. Little Wild One, and what's the other one? Dance With Me Tonight. I love those songs. So I encourage you to watch That Thing You Do. Okay, Little Shop of Horrors. This is from 1986. Now, to some that weren't born in that time period, we're going to think that that's vintage. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's also vintage inspired. You'll see stars such as Tisha Campbell and Tashina Arnold. They are the girls singing in the movie. My favorite song is Some Fun Now in that. And when you're watching this, Halloween will be over. I don't celebrate Halloween, but if you're someone that likes to watch those like spooky themed films during this time of the year, then Little Shop of Horrors is a really good film to watch as well. It is a musical film as well. All right, what's next? Okay, let's go even further back in time. So the next film is called Gidget, and this is from 1959. This film stars Sandra Dee. Is it Sandra Dee? I think. I actually just recently rewatched Gidget. I hadn't watched it in a couple of years, and I really love this film. So if you're interested in films that are kind of about that surfing beach life, like there are movies from that time period in the 60s that's like Beach Blanket. Basically, if you've watched Teen Beach Movie, which is not on this list, but if you've watched Teen Beach Movie, like the Disney version of, it's like a mixture of Grease and the Beach Blanket movies, then you will want to go and watch the original movies where they got the inspiration. So Gidget follows a teenage girl who's kind of more of a tomboy in comparison to her friends. She goes to the beach, she wants to learn how to surf, and she falls in love with one of the surfing guys, and he falls in love with her. Initially, he can't stand her. He keeps calling her a kid, and you know, he coins the name Gidget because she is a midget mixed with a girl, something like that. So not very nice. Gidget is a really cute film, very wholesome and good for all people in your family to watch. So I encourage you to watch Gidget, and I think I have another Sandra Dee film on this list that is in her later years, just a couple years after Gidget. All right, next, Sparkle. Okay, so another musical film, Sparkle from 1976. I'm not talking about the new version with Jordan Sparks. I'm talking about the original 1976 version. This one has Irene Cara in it. If you don't know who Irene Cara is, she did recently pass away, but she sings a lot of the songs that you hear in Flashdance and in Dirty Dancing. So she's in this film. I forgot the lead actress in it. Isn't this terrible? I'm doing a vintage film video and I can't remember any of these actresses' names. How terrible. Sparkle follows another group that's aspiring to be a singing group, and it's from 1976. You'll hear all the songs in it are Aretha Franklin songs, so you will hear songs like Hooked on Your Love, you'll hear Jump. Those are probably my two favorite songs from it. And then if you all are familiar with En Vogue, they covered Aretha Franklin's song, but you'll also hear the song in the movie that is giving him something that he can feel. So I personally prefer the original over the newer version with Jordan Sparks. That's just my own preference. If you're interested in that kind of a film, I love period pieces. So that's another thing I wanted to say. I love period piece films, and that's another thing that I was really triggered about in my film classes, that we didn't watch more inspirational period piece films. So if you're interested in a film like that, then I encourage you to watch Sparkle. I did also want to add that I tried my best to recreate a 1940s sort of hairstyle today. I think I'm giving 1940s with a little bit of 1960s, so I hope I accomplished that. Let me know if you'd like to see a hair tutorial. I know people really want me to do hair tutorials on my channel, but it's just not my forte. But if I can figure out how to film it properly, I will try. So let's look at the next film. If a Man Answers, 1962. All right, this is the film that I mentioned is another film that has Sandra Dee in it, and I actually didn't know about this film until after I watched Gidget, and I went down the line and looked at Sandra Dee films, and oh my goodness, this film is hilarious. So you've got Sandra Dee, you've got her former husband. Basically, she is the daughter of, I believe, a French woman and an American man. Sandra Dee's character is, and she has been dating all over the place, looking for an eligible bachelor to make her husband, and her mother gives her all of this advice that is not exactly what you would think. She even gives her a book on like how to train your dog, or dog man's best friend, and it's about a dog, but it's basically how to train your husband like a dog. It's funny, but it's terrible. But it works. So the mother's a little bit crazy, and there's a lot of things that happen within it, and it's just hilarious. So Sandra Dee does end up meeting her husband, and he marries her, and he's a photographer, and so she models a bit for him. Her parents really, well, her father at least, really does not like the kind of modeling she's doing because she's kind of like a calendar girl. She ends up being a stay-at-home mother, a homemaker, and he's the photographer, so he's photographing other women, and she's jealous of that because he's basically flirting with other women and photographing them and not paying her much attention. So she goes to her mother for advice, and the advice her mother gives her is, of course, how to train your husband like a dog. It's terrible. So it's called If a Man Answers, and you'll figure out why when you watch it. I don't want to give why it's called that away until you watch it. So let me know if you've seen that movie before. It was my first time watching it, and I loved it. It was hilarious. I actually laughed out loud several times, and I wish I grew up watching more Sandra Dee films. I'd heard about her. Of course, she's mentioned in Grease, but I had not taken the time to watch more of her stuff except for Gidget. So if you're interested in a film like that, that's basically a romantic comedy, then I encourage you to watch If a Man Answers. Gosh, these gloves make it just a bit difficult, but they're so cute. They match perfectly. The hat was a gift for my birthday 2 years ago from my brother, and then these gloves are from my granny. So I'm finally getting to wear them. So cute. Okay, this film is kind of iconic in the Black community because it follows a Black group, and I'm sure there are people who haven't watched it before, but it's kind of like a staple in the Black community that we watch. So The Five Heartbeats, directed and produced by Robert Townsend. He also stars in the film. It follows several different real groups and people, like the Dells were a group during the 1950s and 60s, I believe. So it's inspired by these groups, and so kind of based on a true story, kind of fictional. Oh, also kind of inspired by The Temptations. So, and another movie I did not put on this list is obviously The Temptations, which is a non-fictional film about the real group The Temptations. But The Five Heartbeats stars Robert Townsend and Leon and several other actors and actresses. You'll see Diane Carroll in the movie. She's stunning. Oh my gosh, how do I explain this without giving too much away? I tend to like to give a synopsis and a summary of films, but I try not to give it all away. Yeah, it follows a group of male singers just trying to make it, trying to be a singing group. I'll give away the opening. So in the intro, we are introduced with each character. We are able to see who's kind of the troublemaker character. There is a character called Choir Boy, so you get to see each one of these characters progress and grow and change, and then they all come back together at the end. It is a really heartwarming, touching, sad film, also romantic comedy. There are so many parts in the movie that are hilarious, like Robert Townsend's character. I don't know if Robert Townsend, just as an actor, does the most on purpose, but his character in this movie does the absolute most, and it's really ridiculous, but it's hilarious. The Five Heartbeats are a group of singers that they want to make it, they want to get signed, they want to be singers, they want to be like the Temptations, and they go through all of the grooming, similar to how in MOTOWN. If you have not watched my MOTOWN vlog, I will go ahead and link it. Similar to MOTOWN, how they had people teaching you etiquette, how to dance, how to carry yourself, how to answer questions in interviews, and things like that, just being more polished. So they eventually do get signed with a manager, although they don't actually sign a contract with him because he just takes word of mouth as good, because back in the day you could do that and not have to shake hands or write a contract or anything like that. So he is the one that's married to Diane Carroll's character, and he wants what's best for the boys, so he starts trying to get them more gigs and trying to get them to win talent shows. And then there's a character called Big Red, who is this huge record exec, and he's crazy. I'm just going to premise that this man is crazy, absolutely insane. If you like his character, you're weird, I'm sorry, but he's crazy. He ends up wanting to sign them to an actual record company to get them more gigs. Like, he's one of those men that sees dollar signs. He doesn't want the best for the boys. So anyway, if you've seen The Story of the Temptations, it's very similar but also very different. So another musical film. Some of my favorite songs in the film, you'll hear Patti LaBelle singing We Just Haven't Finished Yet. You'll hear Nights Like This, Baby Stop Running, and you'll hear Are You Ready For Me. There are so many good songs. I literally take so many of these songs from movies and just put it on my everyday playlist. That's how good these songs are. Alright, this one is a long one. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, 1976. So, if anyone is familiar with the Beatles, yes, that is the name of one of their albums. This movie is inspired very much by the Beatles. You will hear all Beatles songs here. You will see people like Peter Frampton. You'll see the Bee Gees. You will see Steven Tyler. He's in it. This one man who just is so terrifying to me. I don't remember his name. I think he has like a woman's name. He's gross to me. I don't like him, but he's in it too. At the very end, you'll see a slew of famous celebrities and singers like Tina Turner and people like that. You'll see George Burns. He's in it. He basically tells the story of it. So this is another musical fantasy film that follows Peter Frampton and the Bee Gees. They are a part of the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, and they sing and they perform. They're from a small town in the countryside, and they get sought out to be signed by a big record company. You know how it goes. It sounds similar to other ones, but it's also funny. It's really like okey doke corny. I don't know how to explain it other than that, but it is another feel-good movie, and I love watching it. First of all, Peter Frampton and the Bee Gees. Come on. Oh my gosh, how could I forget? Steve Martin is also in the film. What a fool he is. Looks like we've got 3 more films left. This one is Covergirl. Covergirl, 1944, starring Gene Kelly and Rita Hayworth. You all knew there was going to be a Gene Kelly film on here. Come on. I love Gene Kelly. You're gonna be surprised that there's not an Audrey film, but I feel like I talk about her so much. So anyway, Covergirl, one of my favorite Gene Kelly movies. I always say one of my favorites, but it's true. So it's starring Rita Hayworth, Gene Kelly, and he is basically a club owner, and he trains the girls that are in the club. They kind of put on like vaudeville acts for the club. So they dance, they sing, very theatrical, and one of the girls, not Rita Hayworth's character, discovers a talent casting call for their next cover girl, which a cover girl is basically the girl on the cover of a magazine. So during that time, you know, if you were on the cover of a magazine, your career skyrocketed. And I thought it was so interesting in the beginning when Gene Kelly is talking to the other male character. He's a comedian. He's kind of annoying in the film. And to Rita about making it big quick. And if you notice, that happens a lot during the present day, where people just want to make it big really quick. And we have a lot of social media platforms that make that possible these days. But back then, this is the 40s, you had to really work to make a name for yourself. And so Rita's character ends up also attending the casting call, and they end up liking her. You know, at first they don't, because her friend kind of throws her under the bus, telling her to act a certain way. So Rita's character gets thrown out. But eventually they do have to choose somebody, and they go see a show. The man sees Rita, she reminds him of somebody from his past, and he loves her, and she's a redhead, so he's like, she's perfect. She ends up being the cover girl. Rita Hayworth's character and Gene Kelly's character are in fact dating, and so Gene is very protective of her, doesn't like the people that are signing her, doesn't like that she's going to be less available for his own career and pursuits. So another musical romantic comedy, if you're interested in a film like that. We do get to see more Gene Kelly and his dancing and his singing. So just wonderful. Another feel-good movie, another romance. School Days, 1988, directed by Spike Lee, written and directed by Spike Lee. I don't think I talked about this film. I don't know if I've ever talked about Spike Lee on this channel. I just don't remember. But Spike Lee is another one of those directors who is just really well known within the Black community. I would actually say School Daze is one of his underrated films. I think most people know Malcolm X and Do the Right Thing, but School Daze actually stars himself. I think in every film he does, basically he has himself in the film. But you've got Spike Lee in School Daze, you have Tisha Campbell again, you have Kadeem Hardison, which obviously I adore because they are also from a different world. You see quite a few characters from a different world because it's 1988, so a different world was going on at this time. So you see, basically you get to see Whitley and Dwayne, except they're not together at all. They're on completely opposite ends. So it follows the life of college students on a Black campus, and it talks about really important issues regarding the light-skin, dark-skin debate. I could go on and on and on about the importance of this movie. So many of the premises in it that are important, but I won't. It's another musical film, so you get to hear Tisha Campbell sing. So she sings Alone Tonight, or Be Alone Tonight in the film. And it touches on so many important things. It touches on that light skin, dark skin argument, the issues within the Black community. You learn about the different sororities and fraternities and just the stupid hazing things that they do and what it takes to enter into a fraternity. And you get to see what it's like to be on a college campus with your community and it being divided. And we still see that today. We still see this whole light skin, dark skin debate, like you're too light skinned and you're so light skinned, or dark skinned people are this way. And again, I will not go on a rant, but this is another good film. Spike Lee really did a great job depicting the characters, choosing the people to act as such characters, and it's a really good film. So there's great music in it, but there are also good themes in it that are really important messages in the film. We are on the very last film. I know what this one is. How amazing is that? I haven't been cheating at all, and I'm so glad this is the last one. Under the Cherry Moon, 1986. Prince. How could I not? Okay. This is another one that I'll say is vintage inspired because it's Under the Cherry Moon. It's 1986. I believe it's supposed to be taken place in Paris. So I know they're in Europe. I think it's in Paris. But the way that they're dressed is so old-timey. It's what even would the decade be? Is it like 20s, 30s, 40s? Is that the time period? It's something like that. And first of all, I love the entire soundtrack. That album is called Parade, and there's the music is beautiful. I would say go listen to Venus de Milo if you don't want to listen to songs with words. Just go listen to Venus de Milo. Christopher Tracy, who is Prince's character, and we follow his best friend, who is Jerome. A fool too, follows them. They basically are a pair of gigolos and they go around sleeping with women for money. It's really bad what they do. They come across a really rich young lady who's about to inherit a bunch of money from her father, and father is really evil. And Prince's character, basically Christopher Tracy, ends up wanting to marry her to inherit the money, but then he ends up falling in love with her anyway. But it is just, it's funny, it's ridiculous, it's stupid, but it's shot in black and white. I love that it's shot on film. We get to see Christopher Tracy perform. Obviously Prince is going to perform, and playing the piano. The intro is hilarious, it's beautiful. With him playing a long ballad on the piano, and basically Jerome throwing him all these napkins with notes on them. So it's funny because you get to see Prince and Jerome as best friend characters instead of enemies, because usually in Purple Rain or Graffiti Bridge, Jerome is always with Morris Day in the time, but you get to see Jerome play Christopher Tracy's best friend. So it's really funny. You'll hear a lot of French. I would not say that this film is family friendly. I don't know what else to say, but if you do want to watch more of an old-timey film starring Prince and of course his musical geniusness with the entire soundtrack, Under the Cherry Moon, 1986, had to throw that one in there. One of my favorite ones by Prince. So stupid. One of the jokes in the movie is "Wreck-a-Stow." Once you watch it, you'll understand. If you've already seen it, comment below "Wreck-a-Stow" and spell it right. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed. I hope that you'll take a moment to go and watch some of these films that I've discussed. Let me know in the comments below if there is a film that you have seen before. What did you think of it? Give me some recommendations, because I'm sure that there are movies I still have not seen that are vintage inspired or period pieces. I love musicals. If there's a musical out there, drop it in the comments below. I would love to watch. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.